I stood in the doorway of what used to be my office, watching my stepbrother James clear my personal items into a cardboard box with exaggerated care that mocked any notion of respect. "Don't worry," he smirked, deliberately dropping my framed MBA diploma into the box. "The basement cubicle will suit someone of your position much better. After all, Father always said you needed to learn your place in the company." My place. The same place I'd earned through years of hard work while he coasted on our father's name, throwing lavish parties with company money and taking credit for projects I'd masterminded. "The board's decision was unanimous," he continued, now removing my nameplate from the door. "Thompson Industries needs strong leadership, not some charity case my father felt obligated to employ." I watched silently as he replaced my nameplate with his own, the golden letters catching the morning light. James Thompson III, Executive Vice President. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the real board meeting would happen next week. The one where the ownership of not just the office, but the entire Thompson Tower, would transfer to its new owner. Me. "Oh, and Sarah?" He settled into my leather chair, propping his designer shoes on my mahogany desk. "Be a dear and fetch me a coffee before you head to your new workspace. Make it an Americano, though I suppose with your reduced salary, you'll need to get used to cheaper tastes." I adjusted my simple blazer, the one he always mocked for not being designer, and felt the weight of the documents in my bag. Papers proving that through a series of carefully orchestrated moves over the past 5 years, I'd acquired controlling interest in Thompson Properties, the real estate arm that owned every building bearing the Thompson name. "Of course, James," I replied softly, playing my part one last time. "Anything else?" "Yes," he spun in the chair, my chair, grinning like a child with a new toy. "Have maintenance remove that hideous art piece. The one Father let you pick for the office. We need something more executive." The art piece in question was worth more than his annual salary, a fact he'd know if he'd ever bothered to learn anything about modern art beyond what looked impressive to his socialite friends. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket, a message from my lawyers confirming that everything was in place for next week's revelation. The contracts were signed, the paperwork filed, the trap set perfectly. "And Sarah?" he called as I turned to leave. "Tell your little team in analytics they report to me now. Time to show them what real leadership looks like." My little team, that had quietly quadrupled company profits while he took credit for their success. The same team that had helped me document every instance of his mismanagement, every inappropriate expense, every violation of company policy that would make next week's takeover ironclad. As I walked toward the elevator, my father's voice carried from his corner office. "James, son, those quarterly reports look excellent. That's the Thompson spirit." The reports I'd prepared, the strategies I'd developed, the successes he now claimed as his own. Another message buzzed through my real estate team confirming that the final piece had fallen into place. Thompson Tower's ownership would transfer officially at next Monday's board meeting. In the basement cubicle that was to be my new office, I sat down and opened my laptop. The screen displayed a live feed of the security cameras I'd had installed throughout the executive floor. James was already redecorating, tossing out years of my carefully curated design choices. "Sarah." His voice crackled through the intercom. "Where's my coffee? And get someone to move this desk. The feng shui is all wrong." I smiled, thinking about how wrong everything would be for him in just 7 days. My phone lit up with another message, this time from my investment banker. "All assets in place. Thompson Properties transfer scheduled for Monday. Would you like to review the announcement?" I typed back a quick response. "Perfect. Let them enjoy their corner offices for one more week." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking back your office. It's taking the entire building it sits in. And James? He was about to learn what real power looks like. The week leading up to the board meeting was an exercise in restraint as I watched James parade around in what he thought was his newfound power. Each day brought fresh displays of his arrogance, carefully documented by the security systems I'd installed and the loyal employees he'd never bothered to acknowledge. "Sarah." His voice boomed through the intercom for the 100th time that week. "The quarterly projections need to be revised. Make them more impressive. Father expects big things from his real heir." I glanced at the real projections on my screen, the ones showing how his mismanagement had actually cost the company millions. The same numbers that would help justify my takeover to any questioning shareholders. My phone buzzed with a message from my legal team. Final ownership documents processed. Thompson Properties transfer complete. Monday's meeting is confirmed. Another from my financial advisors. Stock purchase executed through shell corporations. Controlling interest secured. Current market value of Thompson Tower, $890 million. James's voice carried down to my basement cubicle as he gave a tour to his country club friends. And this is where we keep the support staff. You know, the ones who couldn't cut it upstairs. Speaking of which, Sarah. More coffee for my guests. I stood up, straightening my simple black dress, the one he'd mocked as clearance rack chic, and felt the weight of the real estate empire I'd built right under their noses. While they were busy playing corporate royalty, I'd been quietly becoming the queen. Right away, James, I called back, making my way to the executive kitchen. As I prepared the coffee, I could hear him continuing his tour. Father always said some people just aren't cut out for real business, he was saying. Take my stepsister. All that education and she still couldn't handle executive responsibilities. That's why I had to take over her office. For the good of the company, you understand. If he only knew that while he was bragging about his borrowed power, I'd acquired not just Thompson Tower, but every major property in the Thompson real estate portfolio. The very foundation of their empire now belonged to me. My phone lit up with another message, this time from my private investigator. Additional documentation secured. James Thompson's expense reports show significant irregularities. Personal purchases charged to company accounts exceed $2 million. Perfect. More ammunition for Monday's meeting. Oh, and Sarah? James called out as I delivered the coffee. I'm having the basement renovated next month. Your little cubicle might need to be relocated. Perhaps the storage room would be more appropriate. I smiled, thinking about the renovation plans sitting on my desk. The ones that would transform the entire building once I took control. Of course, James. Whatever you think is best. That's what I like to hear, he smirked, turning to his friends. See? Some people know their place. My place. If he only knew. Later that afternoon, I watched through the security feeds as James hosted an impromptu executive happy hour in my former office. They were celebrating his latest achievement. Taking credit for a merger I'd orchestrated months ago. To the new era of Thompson Industries, he toasted, raising a glass of $1,000 whiskey he'd charged to the company account. Finally, proper leadership in place. My phone buzzed again, the building management system alerting me that James had once again violated after-hours protocols, exceeding his security clearance. Another item for Monday's documentation. Ms. Thompson. My assistant's voice came through my private line. The board packets are ready for Monday. Would you like to review the announcement? I opened the file on my laptop, smiling at the headline that would soon rock the Thompson empire. Thompson Properties announces new ownership. Sarah Thompson acquires controlling interest in $2.8 billion real estate portfolio. Perfect, I replied. And the security team is prepared for Monday? Yes, ma'am. New badges and access codes are ready. All executive floor access will transfer to your control at 9 a.m. sharp. I leaned back in my basement chair, listening to the celebrations above. James was now regaling his friends with stories of his brilliant business acumen, each lie adding to the evidence I'd collected. Did you hear? His voice carried through the vents. Sarah actually thought Father would let her run this division. As if someone like her could handle real estate at this level. I checked my portfolio app, watching as my net worth ticked up another few million with the latest market movements. The same real estate empire he thought was beyond my capabilities had made me a billionaire while he was playing office politics. My father's voice joined the celebration. James, son, I always knew you'd take this company to new heights. The Thompson name is in good hands. If they only knew whose hands really held the power. Monday morning dawned clear and bright, perfect weather for a corporate coup. I arrived early, still in my basement office, watching through the security feeds as the usual morning ritual unfolded above. James swaggered in at 9:15, predictably late, carrying a cup of artisanal coffee that probably cost more than what he thought was my daily salary. Sarah. His voice crackled through the intercom. The board meeting's at 10. Make sure the presentation materials are perfect. And do something about your appearance. We can't have you embarrassing me in front of the directors. I smiled at my reflection in the computer screen, already wearing the Chanel suit I'd had tailored for this exact moment. The security feeds showed James settling into my former office, feet up on the desk, regaling his assistant with tales of his weekend yacht party paid for, of course, with company funds. My phone buzzed with messages from my team. Legal. All documents filed. Ownership transfer complete. Security. New protocols in place. Ready on your command. PR. Press release prepared. Major outlets standing by. Building management. Access codes updated. System transfer scheduled for 10 a.m. At 9:45, right on schedule, James's voice came through again. Sarah. Where are those presentation materials? And my coffee's cold. Coming right up, I replied, gathering the real presentation materials, the ones that would change everything. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt different this morning. The same security guards who'd been watching this drama unfold nodded respectfully. They'd already been briefed on the coming changes. I walked into the boardroom where directors were already gathering. James sat at the head of the table, my father beside him, both wearing identical smirks of superiority. Finally, James drawled. Just put the materials there and fetch me a fresh coffee before you go back to your cave. Actually, I said, remaining standing, I think I'll stay. My father frowned. Sarah, this is an executive board meeting. You know the rules. Oh, I do, I smiled, pulling out my phone as it struck 10 a.m. Right on cue, the building's security system pinged, and new badges activated across the tower. In fact, I know them better than anyone here. The boardroom doors opened and my team entered, legal, security, and PR representatives all carrying folders marked with my company's logo. What is this? James demanded, half rising from his chair. This, I said, taking out my new access card, is what real power looks like. I pressed a button on my phone, and the boardroom screens lit up with the ownership transfer documents. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. As of 9 a.m. this morning, I announced, Thompson Properties, including this building and all associated real estate holdings, belongs to Phoenix Ventures. My company. James laughed, but it sounded hollow. This is ridiculous. Father, tell her dash. It's true, my lawyer stepped forward, distributing documents to the board members. Through a series of strategic acquisitions over the past 5 years, Ms. Thompson has acquired controlling interest in all Thompson Properties assets. Total value, $2.8 billion. The color drained from James's face as he flipped through the papers. This is impossible. You're just a dash. Just what, James? I cut him off. Just your stepsister? Just the person you relegated to the basement? Just the woman you thought couldn't handle real estate at this level? My father found his voice. Sarah, what have you done? What you taught me to do, I replied calmly. Build an empire. Though perhaps not quite the way you expected. I nodded to my security team, who began distributing new access badges to authorized personnel. Notably, James's wasn't among them. Effective immediately, I continued, Thompson Tower and all associated properties will operate under new management. My management. You can't do this. James shouted, standing up so quickly his chair toppled backward. This is my office, my building. Actually, I smiled, holding up my new master access card, it's mine. Every floor, every office, every square foot. Including that basement cubicle you so generously assigned me. The boardroom erupted into chaos as the full scope of my takeover became clear. James lunged for the documents, but my security team stepped forward. And James, I added, pulling out a thick folder. We should discuss your creative expense reporting. $2 million in personal charges? Diske. Those were authorized, he sputtered. By whom? The same father who just lost control of his real estate empire? I don't think that carries much weight anymore. My phone buzzed, the press release was going live. On the boardroom screens, headlines began appearing. Thompson Properties undergoes surprise ownership change. Billionaire Sarah Thompson acquires family real estate empire. From basement to boardroom, the silent takeover of Thompson Tower. Security will escort you to clear out your office, I informed James. My office actually. Though I think I'll be taking the penthouse suite instead. Father. James turned desperately to my father, who sat stunned in his chair. Do something. But there was nothing he could do. The empire he'd built, the power he'd wielded, the legacy he'd promised to his son, it all belonged to me now. Oh, and James. I called as security led him toward the door. Don't forget to turn in your building access card. We wouldn't want any unauthorized personnel in the executive areas. The next few hours were a blur of activity. New signs being installed, security protocols updating, employees discovering that their real boss had been working alongside them in the basement all along. My phone buzzed continuously with messages. James, this isn't over. You can't just take everything. Father, we need to talk. Family means something. James's mother, how dare you do this to my son? I forwarded them all to my legal team with one note. Add to the documentation file. Sometimes the best revenge keeps records. By evening I stood in the penthouse office, my new office, looking out over the city. The same view James had coveted, now mine by right of conquest and cunning. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Miss Thompson? James is in the lobby demanding to speak with you. He says it's about his personal items still in the office. I smiled, thinking about the cardboard box he'd used to clear out my office just a week ago. Tell him he can collect them from the basement. I hear there's plenty of storage space down there. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking back what's yours. It's taking everything they thought they owned and showing them what real power looks like. Welcome to my building, James. The basement's that way.